We're now in the final Perek of Absalom's rebellion. And here in Perek 18, David HaMelech is doing some official army business. He's dividing up his troops into thirds. 1/3 with Yoab, 1/3 with Yoab's brother Abishai, the son of Tzuriah, and 1/3 under the command of Ittai Haggiti. And he then says, as is the way of all incredible leaders, is that I will go in front of you. We had learned in the prior prakim that what did some of the non-Jewish leaders do? They said, you go and I will be in the back. But here we have that David is the commander, and the commander in an army that is Tzivos Hashem goes in front. And the people, they say, absolutely not. Are you kidding? It is not going to go well. We do not want you to risk your life for us. There is no way that lo tetzei ki im nos nus lo yasimu aleinu leib v'lo yimusu chatzienu v'lo yasimu aleinu leib ki ata kamonu asara alapim v'ata tov ki tiyeh lanu mi'ir la'azor. No, because if some of us flee, the rest of us are not even going to care about them. They're going to be only concerned about you. And if half of us should die, the others are not even going to care about that, because you are worth it to us. You are so precious to us, David. It is not good. And the only reason, truthfully, that they're going to be fighting to kill is if you're among us, because this is a war where you have the mark on your back. There's another way to rely on, to think about it, and that is they're really not sure, right? The heads in command, they know that David is, in a punish mentality, and as much as Hashem is with him, they can't rely on that. And so they're just not sure that this is the right move to put everybody in danger when David, they're not sure if he's in or out of grace with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the idea that ki ata kamonu asara alafim, you are worth 10,000 of us, highlights the real loyalty that could have, that should have, that developed from David and his men. And I think that a Musar Haskell that we can take from this is that all of us should always feel like we're worth 10,000 people, that we're bekavadik to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he gives us so much, and we are so worth it, even when we don't always feel that we are. And David says to them, you know what? I'm flexible. Asher tav be'einechem e'aseh. I will do whatever you think is best. I have to go by the majority. Majority rules. You've got it. And again, a good king negates his ego for the sake and the kavod of the position that he's in. And if all of the people are saying this, then his job is to reflect and to allow himself to go in accordance with what the people are asking him to do in this situation only. And he does, and instead he stands by the gates. And remember, the gates is the Sanhedrin, and all the troops march out in hundreds and thousands. So they're in the formation that was created. Now, what does Hamelech, right? He's functioning as a king, but in his official capacity, not in his personal life. The Melech tells Yoav, Abishai, and Ittai, La'atli la'na'ar la'Avshalom. Please be gentle with my boy Absalom. B'chol ha'am shamu, and everybody heard this. It wasn't that it was a private spectacle. It was that everybody heard that be gentle with Absalom. Why? Because at the end of the day, David loves Absalom, and he would never want anything to happen to his son. And they go out to the field, and they have there is a Malchama, a war, B'Ya'ar Ephraim, in the forest of Ephraim. And all of the Israel troops were gone. The David's troops are following them, and there's a huge amount of killing. 20,000 of the Israel people are killed, and the battle is spread out over the whole region. And what's interesting is, Vayerev haya'ar le'echol ba'am, the people were devoured by the troops, more than the troops that day. That the forest was devouring the people. What does it even mean? So the forest wasn't kind to them. The forest was attacking them. Why? Because they had no loyalty to David HaMelech. Are they kidding? How dare, with all of what he did and how he believed in his people, you turned against him? Well, the forest, so to speak, fought back and said, not okay. And so they attacked even worse. I guess the conditions in the forest, or whatever that means, was way worse than what the troops were doing by the sword. And Absalom sees some of the people from David, and he's riding on Rochev al-Hapered, the mule. This is something that was determined a long time before. Vayavo hapered tachas shovech. This mule passes under some branches, ha'ela, of this particular tree, hagdolah. It's a very, very big tree. Vayachazek rosho ba'ela. And his hair gets caught in the tree. Vayutan bin hashamayim ubein aretz, and he's dangling. Va'pered asher tachtav avar, and obviously the mule just keeps riding. So now he's dangling by his hair from branches of a tree in the middle of a war zone. Interesting. Now, the obvious question is, why didn't he just cut his hair? Do what you can, get the hair down, and then you'll fall down, and then you can escape and you can run away. And first of all, isn't this poetic justice, or what we call midah k'neged midah? He was a Nazir, and it went to his head. He thought of himself, I am God's gift. I am good looking, and all of the beautiful qualities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him, that he could have used l'tova for good things. He was misguided into just believing so much in his own beauty and his own physicality and his own capabilities that he, in some ways, really convinced himself that he was so great. But now you're dangling from a tree by your greatness. How's your greatness working for you now, Absalom? But ultimately, he didn't think to cut it down. Also, if we go a little bit deeper, the Mefarshim talk about that he realized, I was worried by Malchus, but I was more than that. I didn't just rebel against any king. I rebelled against the king, the one whose lineage is going to bring Mashiach. I got in the way of that. He's not going to be a Ben Olam Haba. And so he figured, you know what, it's better that I die and have punishment, that maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to, it'll be tshuva time, and maybe that'll be good. So on the one hand, you could say that he did it because of his vanity, that he couldn't cut his hair. On the other hand, perhaps there was he had come to full circle and he understood, and this was his only way that he could avoid or deal with all of his misdeeds. Vayar ishachad, and somebody sees this, and they told Yoav, oh my gosh, Absalom is hanging on by a tree. And Yoav says to one, oh my gosh, why didn't you just kill him there? I mean, really, madua loki kiso sham arza, like just kill him. I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt. I would have rewarded you. And the man says, well, even if I had 1,000 shekels in my hands, I would not do that. There's no way. You know exactly. The king said, lo tishlach yadi al ben hamelach. You're not allowed to don't put anything, no hand on the king's son. And he said, Shim'u mi banar ba'Absalom. Right? So, watch over my body, Absalom. Like, that's it. We all heard it. So of course I wouldn't have killed him, even if he would have given me more money. If I betrayed myself Nothing's hidden from the king. And it's interesting. HaMelech could be HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Hashem sees everything. I wouldn't have been able to get away with this. So it would not have made sense. Either everybody heard what King David said, or everybody knows, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows, you're not allowed to just murder people. Certainly no Marad B'Malchus, and I don't know who the king is going to be, but you can't do that. And so Yoav says, you know what? I'm not waiting for this. And he takes 3 darts in his hand and he sticks them into Absalom's heart. V'titka'im b'leiv Absalom, right into his heart. 3, because there are 3 opportunities of swaying other people's hearts. The people, Achitophel, and it's just, it's an unfair, and the heart of the Sanhedrin. And so we see that it really is, again, Mita Keneged Mita. Exactly what Absalom was doing is where his punishment is going to unfold. So first, it was his hair. Second, it was the 3 horrible darts that he stuck into his chest. And now, Vayasobu Asara Na'arim, and now 10 of the Na'arim closed in, and they Bayaku as Absalom Bayamisehu, and they hit Absalom and they kill him. So he's alive with the chest, with 3 darts in his chest, and then 10 people hit him and he dies. Now Bayaku as Absalom Bayamisehu, this is the source, like that, the double language is that he lost his Olam Hazeh, he died, and he lost his Olam Haba. And that is because of how terrible he was. But Vayitzaka Yoav b'shofar, Yoav blows a shofar, and the troops give up. That's it. They're done. There's no reason to be fighting. This is a civil battle, and it's not okay to be having it unnecessarily. And they take Absalom and they flung him into a pit in the forest. This pit of Ya'ar Absalom is one that many, many, many people go to daven to ask mercy for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that just like David HaMelech had mercy on his son, please, so too, please, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, please have mercy on Bnei Yisrael and Klal Yisrael, like only you know how, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And they pile a great heap of stones. Why does he need a great heap of stones? Because he doesn't have any children. And so this is the marker. This is, the remnants of Absalom. And everybody else goes back to their home. Now, so he has this pillar. He has a matzeva, and it's still there, Adayom Hazeh. And now, Achimatz ben Tzadok says, I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the king exactly what happens. And, that Hashem has, allowed him, Kishavto Hashem Yad Ivav, you beat your enemies. And Yoav says, no, here's another life lesson. Lo ish basura ata hayom hazeh. Not a good idea. You should not give bad advice. Why? Lo tivaser ki alkin ben hamelach meit. You should not be the one to say it, because do it on another day, but not today, because it's bad news. The king is dead, and so what? Why can't he tell him? Why does Yoav not allow him to tell him? So he's saying, here's life lesson. You're a Kohen. Kohanim bring good news, and they're full of shalom. So you do not bring bad news. That's not what works. Instead, he calls to a kushi, someone who is not functioning exactly as a member of Klal Yisrael. Perhaps he was from Kush, or perhaps he's highlighting that he's just different. And he says to him, go tell the king exactly what you saw. And this guy runs off. Now, Achimatz, the son of Tzadok, again says to Yoav, please let me go. And Yoav said, why do you want to say? And he said, no, I really want to go. And he says, okay, fine, then go. So Achimatz starts to run, and he passes the Kushi. Now, David is sitting between the 2 gates. Remember, he hasn't really left. That's where we started with him, and And there's a watchman who comes and he's looking and he sees, okay, there's a man who's running by himself. And he says, oh, good. Okay, that, if he's alone, then maybe he has something to say. And he says, oh, yeah. And now there's also another man who's running behind him, and he's also running alone. And the king says, this is good. Okay, that guy also is going to bring me news. Now I can finally get. He says, oh, good. Look at that. You know who the first guy is? The first guy is Achimaatz, the son of Tzadok. And the king says, this is great. And ish tov zeh ba'al besora tova yavo, because good people say good things. Life lesson. Good people say good things. Keep going, and Achimaatz says to the king, oh, Hashalom, and he bows down, and he says, Baruch Hashem Elokeicha asher sigar es ha'anashim asher nasu es yadam be'odonei hamelech. Praise be Hashem, he delivered those who raised up against you. Your enemies have now been defeated. Now, what does a king, Hamelech, want to know? I want to know official business here. How is my son Avshalom? And Achimaatz says, there was like a lot of going on. I'm so sorry. So I guess, and then Yoav told me to say that the battle is done, but lo yadati, I have no idea what's really going on. And the king says, Sobi Tzivko, step aside. You're not going to be helpful. And then this Kushi comes. Now the Kushi basically didn't understand exactly what his job was or what to say. And so what does he say? He says, great news, Hashem has vindicated you from all the people who rebelled against you. It's so good. And the king says, okay, I heard that part right. But what about my boy Avshalom? Right? Hashalom la'na'ar la'Avshalom. And the Kushi says, Ay, Yihiyu k'na'ar oivei Adoni Hamelech b'chol asher kamu alecha l'ra'a. What happened to him should be like all your enemies should experience as bad as things happen to Avshalom. Not exactly what David Hamelech was hoping to hear. And it's interesting that the Kushi, who just missed the target, is telling David. Now, David was beside himself. He was so nervous. He was so upset. He was perhaps davening and obviously has forgiven on some level his son because he was just concerned that his son should be okay. And that really is a very important dynamic part of who David Hamelech is. In this entire Perek, David is Hamelech. He really is on target, functioning as a king. And as a king, official business, he still cares about his son. And he is making all decisions, hopefully, that is good for the people. But he just wants his son to be okay. And that the love that he has is not the love of a king, but it's the love of the person who David HaMelech is. And we see the juxtaposition of the strength and also the sensitivity and the kindness and the love. He's a real person. There's a real father-son relationship that we could connect to. We feel his pain. We feel his anticipation. We feel the whirlwind of experience, and the loss becomes a very deep loss because we are connected through this story to the depth of who David HaMelech is. And we will see what happens when David hears this terrible news in the next Perek.